Kim Butler is my very special guest today. Uh-oh, I got my stuff all screwed up. Friday, September 25th, 2020. I'm Ben Dryden, and you are watching Meet the Candidate, a special Dryden Wire Live series where every Friday I chat with a different candidate running for elected office. Last Friday, Representative Gabe Magnifici was my guest, and today her opponent in the 28th district race, Kim Butler, will be joining us. Wisconsin's 28th Assembly District covers portions of Polk, Burnett, and St. Croix counties. Special thank you to the others that were on this week. Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald for our weekly Positive Tuesday. And on Wednesday, we had Congressman Tom Tiffany stop by for his monthly chat. Next Friday on Meet the Candidate, I'll be chatting with 10th Senate District candidate Senator Patty Shockner. Can't wait to talk to her again. But today, I am very pleased to welcome back for a chat Miss Kimberly Butler. Kim, good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm good, Ben. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
I'm excited to be here.
Yes. You were here a couple of years ago, but it was in studio. So now, of course, we're doing everything virtually.
Yes,
in your campaign stuff and what you've been doing, how many virtual chats that you either host or are a part of on a daily basis right now?
I think it's at least one a day. I could do more if I wanted to do more training or advocacy group things like this group is having a Skype about this important thing, or, the Biden campaign is, having a chat about this issue, or especially now with the Bidens making so many appearances on Skype and on Facebook Live and things like that. So yes, and also as a party chair, I have meetings. And
what are you the party chair of? Is it? Oh, that's the 7th congressional.
Two things.
Two things now. Jeepers, we haven't talked in a while.
Busy. I've been chair of the Polk County Democrats for a couple years and co-chair before that. And then a year ago, April, I believe, I was elected chair of the 7th Congressional District, which is the 26 counties that comprise Tom Tiffany and hopefully Tricia Zunker's district.
Well, before we go anywhere, because I have several things I wanted to get to, but as always, for people who don't know you very well, now you did a 15 things you might not know about me, which we always like to have the day before. I even learned a few things. It's on our website, drydenwire.com. I learned a lot about you. It was fun to read. And I do have a question about one of them, but so there's a lot more information there. But if you can just kind of recap, your history and, where you grew up, how did you get to the place that you are right now and deciding I'm running? Now, that's tough to do in like 5 minutes, but give it a shot.
Okay. Well, this confuses even my own kids. But I grew up on the East Coast until about 8th grade. I lived in New Jersey and New York. And my parents were divorced, and I moved out to Chicago in high school to live with my dad, lived there a couple years of high school, and then he transferred to Oklahoma City. So I spent my last 2 years of high school there, and then went to college in Iowa, in Grinnell, and really loved that part of the Midwest, and eventually graduated, went to Springfield, Missouri, and worked there for a couple years and moved up to the Twin Cities in the mid-'80s, dating myself now. Lived there probably 16 years, and during that time, I was working at television stations as a writer, promotional copywriter, and eventually a producer at Twin Cities Public Television. I worked for the show Newton's Apple, which was a family science show.
What? I remember that show.
Yep. It was a ton of fun, and I got to travel a lot, went to Switzerland and Mexico and California, and that's where I met my husband. He was my freelance videographer on a shoot about the physics of rollerblading.
Oh, boy.
And I was pretty impressed because he was willing to rollerblade with a $30,000 camera in his hand. And he was also super nice.
Oh.
So I met him, and Newton's kind of started wrapping up. It had been on for, I believe, 13 years. So I moved on to a show called Gimme Shelter on the Discovery Channel, which was one of the home improvement shows. So then I learned how to do plumbing and electrical work. And
holy cow, I should hire you.
Well, I won't tell you the story about when I decided to change my faucet out on Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
Ended up with having the city having to come out and replace the whole valve to the house because it was a 1917 house. And it would have had to have been replaced anyway, but I had a couple days without water because of that. After that, I decided to hire plumbers.
Yep.
But anyway, so from there, my husband and I got married. I continued to work in television, did a gardening show, and then we decided to start a family. We were living in South Minneapolis. And once we had our first child, we really decided that we didn't necessarily want to live in the city. And I got pregnant with our second one. We put the house up for sale. And my husband said, hey, I've got 20 acres up by my parents' cabin on Half Moon Lake. Would you be willing to move up there? He was at the time, he had started his internet-based business, Great Mats, and he was working out of our basement. And I said, well, if I can stay home with our kids, then I'll be willing to do that, because obviously I can't be a TV producer if we're in Balsam Lake. So we built a house up here, moved the family up, moved his business up. At that time, it was just him, and he kept expanding it. Now it's located in Milltown. We employ 20 people, and I think he's expanded his warehouse multiple times.
Good for him.
Our two kids have, they started at, Valley Christian Preschool and then went on to Unity, stayed there through middle school, and then both of them open enrolled into St. Croix Falls. During that time, I was diagnosed with cancer, with breast cancer, when they were in kindergarten and first grade, and got through that, went through all the treatments. It was locally advanced, so I had all the fun things, radiation, chemo, you name it. I still take a pill every night.
Picking up your sarcasm.
Yes. Well, you got to have a sense of humor about it. Yeah. I was one of those people that, when I lost my hair, I said, well, I'll never have a bad hair day. Hey, I'm going to save on shampoo.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I get through life, is you got to find the funny.
A little levity's good.
Ironic parts of it.
Yeah.
But after that, we had neighbors bringing food over, and, I'd come out to get the mail, and there'd be, pizzas on the front porch and cookies. And I sort of made a pact, and I said, if I get through this, I'm just going to, do as much as I can to help people and give back to the community. I'm one of those people now, I can't walk past a Salvation Army kettle without putting some money in it. It's like an omen thing with me. You must put money in there. But I started volunteering then, and first as a classroom volunteer and doing things at the school on Community Education Council. And then I became a cookie mom with Girl Scouts, eventually a leader, then the treasurer for the service unit, and then I started running the service unit. Same time, my kids started playing soccer, and I thought, well, they always need coaches. I guess I can coach.
Oh, you're a helicopter mom.
A year later, I was running the program for 6 or 7 years. So I just started doing a lot of volunteer work, getting involved in the community. From there, once the kids became old enough to drive, and I could step back a little from being so centered on their activities, I wasn't coaching Destination Imagination anymore. I wasn't showing up to help at the middle school Halloween party. I thought, well, I was interested in politics in college and in my 20s, and I'd like to get involved again. And so I started coming to Polk County Democrat meetings, and from there just kept going. Within a year, I was on the board. Then I was a co-chair. I was a delegate to the 2016 Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, and came back and thought, I should, really think about getting more involved. And this opportunity came
more involved. That's just funny that you say
involved. I wasn't doing
so
enough.
Everything you've done, you've been the most involved.
Well, I do. I am one of those people that I felt like, okay, I have the privilege of being a stay-at-home mom, so I need to do some heavy lifting here, because a lot of parents can't run the program or they can't coach. And so I should be doing that because I can. And so I've always felt like that. If I can do it, I should. And if no one else is going to do it, I'll step up and do it.
Yeah.
That's why I did the 7th CD thing. Someone came up to me and said, I'd really like you to run, and I think you can make some good changes. And that's what I did. And now I'm kind of like, why do I have all these
Yeah, no kid.
positions?
And a workplace romance. See, that stuff's real, man. It is.
It it is. It
Yeah.
is. Fortunately, I he wasn't there full time, so there was no like weird,
Oh, sure.
I'm supervisor or anything.
Yeah.
Um, and we end up working on projects together, and I still do some work for Great Mats off and on. I've done copywriting and some data entry over the
I'm surprised
years.
you're not
And
running it by now. Hmm.
well, you know that thing about husbands and wives working together?
Yeah.
Some can work together really
Hmm.
well, and we can on certain things, but I think it's better that he pretty much runs it
Yeah.
and gives me some
Sure.
project work. But this summer, we had our kids working in the warehouse. Starting in the spring, my daughter was working full time because they just needed the extra help. COVID's changed the business a lot. And my son was working in the warehouse as well, which I'm glad. I like them to um, experience a variety of different jobs so they know what the rest of the world is
Mm.
like. And that they, even though they're in college, that they have respect for hard work and good work and, people working.
Yeah. And that's kind of just like I don't know why. I don't know if it's the parenting in our area. Well, I don't think that's it. There's something about Northwest Wisconsin in our area that hard work, man, it's just a part of it. I was in California. I've been in Chicago. I've lived in the Twin Cities. And when they hear, where are you from? Northern Wisconsin. Like, okay. Like they just know what that means.
Yeah. I have former coworkers who were in video production who went out to California, and they said that they got snatched up because everybody knew, oh, he's an audio person from Minnesota.
Mhm.
Well, I know he's going to show up.
Yeah.
I know he's going to stay here until, the job is done, and he's going to work hard.
Mhm.
And I certainly want to, instill that in my
Yeah.
kids.
I want to bring up one thing from your 15 things you might not know about me. Was number 10. I won the prize for most diligent in ninth grade the year I attended the all girls Catholic school in Chicago. How'd you earn that? I mean, ninth grade,
No,
most diligent?
I had to look it up then, even though I was, a whiz at ninth grade vocabulary tests, which we had every week. Diligent means that you work hard, that you have stick-to-itiveness, that you just keep pushing forward on it,
Hmm.
and get the job done. And
Well,
I don't
impressive.
know that I was that impressed with it at the time, but there was a time, I think I still have the little award somewhere, from the Academy of the Sacred Heart. And it was on my bulletin board for a long time,
Mm.
sort of reminding me that I have that ability and I need to use it.
And even in ninth grade, jeepers. Okay, so let's get to some of the topics regarding the election, the campaign. So you ran in 2018, and what led you to decide to run again this election cycle?
Well, while I did lose in 2018, I moved the dial up. My numbers were a lot better than previous Democrats. I also, someone told me that I closed the gap between Hillary voters in the district and myself. Like, oh, I always have a hard time explaining that. But
And I have a hard time
I,
understanding it, so don't even bother explaining it.
yeah,
But there's a lot of
I
people
got
a
a
lot
lot.
smarter than I
Yeah,
that
I got a lot more voters than Hillary did. Um,
interesting.
and I also outperformed a lot of people that did win statewide. I got higher numbers than Tony Evers or Sarah Godlewski or
Wow.
several candidates who are now in office. The only one who consistently outperformed people was Senator Baldwin, who is consistently popular
Yeah,
across
sure.
the state. So those numbers gave me hope that 2020 could be a different year, and other people as well who said you really should
Yeah.
run again. Democrats often do not run a second time in this district because it is a conservative district. It's a
Hmm.
hard district.
Hmm.
But with name recognition and the fact that I knew, the issues and what I was doing, it's certainly worth a second time.
Yeah.
And that's, being diligent, having stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah.
I don't get knocked down easily the first time, and I bounce back, and that's what I'm doing. The other thing is that I wanted to give my opponent Gay a chance to perform and see how she did,
Mhm.
and see if she lived up to the promises that she made during her campaign. And I don't see that. I don't see that she's solved the pre-existing condition um, problem and guaranteed coverage for families. I don't see that she's fixed healthcare or education. And I don't feel like she's being responsive to the district. She's had 5 listening sessions before COVID shut everything down. And I don't think that that's enough. I brought this up to her, and she feels that when she shows up at county fairs and things like that, that is a comparable. And I don't agree with that. I think there's nothing better than having a town hall or a listening session where constituents and voters can show up and ask you anything
Mm-hmm.
and bring up anything and complain or whatever and get answers from you. Not just listening, but get answers from their legislators, because that's their job. That's part of being a representative, is representing the district, listening to people, but also answering their questions and bringing back their concerns to Madison. So I simply feel that I'm better equipped to do that.
Sure.
I don't mind going out and talking to people of differing opinions. I'm open to listening, and I'll, take a good argument. I'm not, narrow focused here.
Is there a balance there when it comes, do you believe, when it comes to the town halls? I remember when Sean Duffy was still in office. I can't remember what the number was, because they would promote this a lot. That it was like 90. He had 97% more. I think it was like 97% more town halls than anyone else or something. I don't know. So he did a lot of town halls. But then people started thinking, well, you're just doing it so you can say that you did. Is there an opposite end of that where it's okay, now you're just doing it to show off?
Well, I don't think that you always have to self-promote everything that you do, and maybe that was some of it. But I've read that Representative Katrina Shanklin, who's in the Stevens Point area, she'll just do these things where she's going to be at a restaurant. You want to stop by and chat with her? You can do that. And I think that during when the legislature's not in session, that having, a listening session every month or every other month would be a really good thing, so that people felt like you were always accessible. Mm-hmm. The other option, too, is Republican former state senator Sheila Harsdorf was the kind of legislator that if you called her office and you had a question, you had an issue, she often would call you back at night and talk to you about it. And I'm very impressed with that. I admire that kind of dedication to the job and willingness to talk to your constituents, regardless of whether they agree with you or not.
So you ran, obviously in 2018, so you must have obviously learned some things from that. But with 2020, this election cycle, it's different. So it's not like you can all right, I'm going to learn all these things. But now it's COVID. So what has been the difference for you? Do you feel it's negatively or potentially positively impacted your campaigning this year?
Well, one frustrating thing is that I'm not knocking on doors. And that was something that I wish I had done more of. I did knock doors, but I sometimes felt that I was having superficial conversations with voters, that we weren't necessarily connecting. But then I started hearing anecdotal evidence of people saying, yeah, I always vote Republican, but I'm voting for her because she stopped by and talked to me. And I came to realize that, yes, it really was important. I always wanted to get into these meaty conversations with people, and sometimes I would. And we'd have these great conversations where we connected, but that's not everybody's style. And I need to accept that sometimes just talking and knowing who I am and maybe asking a few questions is enough for a lot of voters.
And so this time around with COVID, being what it is and not being able to knock on doors, how do you have those conversations, or how have you been having those conversations?
You call people, you have virtual meet and greets on Skype, but phone conversations can take the place. As long as people answer their phone, and that, comes and goes. Also, I certainly talk to a lot of people about yard signs. In my role as Democratic Party chair, we have tons of people calling, messaging, emailing about yard signs, and I will usually identify myself that, I don't know if you realize I'm also the Kim Butler who's running for assembly in the 28th district, and let me know if you have any questions. So it's just talking to as many people, and then we're doing the standard things of reaching out via social media and
Mhm.
mailers, and not sure what else we're going to be doing as far as media reach out. But it's frustrating not to be able to talk to voters. I also miss events, um, having a meet and greet, because those situations actually make it easier for the candidate, because you get positive feedback, or you get feedback, and that kind of feedback keeps you
Mm.
going through the more difficult parts of the election, when you might have some person trolling you on Facebook,
What? That never
knowing that
happens.
you talked to someone and they really felt like you could make a difference, and they understand that as a cancer survivor and a small business person, um, I will work as hard as
Mm.
I can to fix um, healthcare and make sure that people with pre-existing conditions are covered, because that's personal for me.
Hmm.
And so that feedback is something I miss a lot in 2020.
So are those, so if you were elected, uh, you had referenced pre-existing conditions, healthcare, and I think even education. That was more in regards to gay. Are these the three things that you would want to tackle immediately? And if so, how do you get that done?
Well, I'm going to say healthcare is number one right
Okay.
now, particularly because we're in the middle of a pandemic. We have thousands of people in the 28th district who still don't have any health insurance. I met these people when I was a soccer coordinator. I started realizing that the kids were on Badger Care, but the parents didn't have insurance. I also, would meet these people on doors. They would say, "Yeah, we've got the kids on Badger Care, but we can't afford insurance." So first thing I would want to do is take the federal Medicaid expansion money, which is taxpayer dollars that we have already paid, and it would save us. I think it's billions of dollars, and cover more people. The other thing I'd like to do is open up Badger Care as a buy-in option for people. Before the ACA, I had my kids on Badger Care for a while. I could pay into it to buy coverage for them. It's a great program. It would lower rates, not just for the people buying into it, because I buy private insurance right now and it's expensive, as
Hmm.
everybody who buys it knows. Um, but it would also, that competitiveness would help lower rates for people who chose to remain on private insurance, by making insurance companies go, whoa, we're losing all these customers to Badger Care, maybe we should lower our rates. And it's, I have a family of 4 people. We have 3 insurance policies. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of, paying 3 premiums and looking through bills and trying to figure out, is this company going to pay that? And what's the deductible on this one? And it's just frustrating. So I want to simplify that. And people being uninsured in a pandemic is morally wrong, as
Yeah,
far as
it's
I'm
rough.
concerned.
Yeah.
The other thing is, getting them insurance makes us all safer. If you have health coverage, you're more likely to use it. You're more likely to go get tested. You're more likely to go to the doctor. You're going to get that flu shot. And that benefits all of us. The more healthy people we have in our population, the less spread we're going to
Hmm.
have, and the sooner we can get back to normal, which is, I think, what everybody wants.
Yes.
So,
Excuse me. Certainly. So it's one of those things, though, where for these it's a great list. These are the things I want to get done. Do you believe that is you're able to get that done regardless of if Republicans or Democrats hold a majority in either the Assembly or Senate? Or is that really the deciding factor? Where, so for example, you get elected and there's Democrat hold a majority in the Assembly and the Senate, I would just assume you're more likely to get something, the things that you talked about, done. If not, if Republicans do, is this something where, yeah, it'll never get done? Or are these some of the things that, okay, assuming that Democrats is not going to be like a clean sweep or anything and it's not going to be controlled in both houses, how do you get that stuff done?
well, I think in talking to people, everybody's frustrated with what's largely gridlocked down in Madison, and same in DC. And voters are tired of it. They want both parties to work together. And I think that, Republicans are hearing that, I hope. Um, I'm going to hope that we gain some seats in this election. It's, it would be foolish to think that we're going to get a Democratic majority, but, the maps are gerrymandered and some districts are just not going to change. But I think it's just, continue to push and continue to try and work across the aisle, make deals, um,
Hmm.
compromise, and, develop relationships with legislators across the aisle. That's how I've always worked in the
Yeah.
past, was trying to get to know as many people in my office, at the TV station, in my organization. I have people sending me Biden signs from around the state now because we all had a problem getting them. And there was such demand at first. But because I know people in different parts of the state, they're donating them to Polk
Mm.
County. So, building those relationships is really important. And that's
Yeah.
something that I want to do. And you know, college, I lived across the hallway from the head of the Young Republicans, and politics was different back then. But he and I and a couple other people on the floor stayed up way too late on many nights playing spades, which is a version of hearts, the card game. And we also talked about politics all the time. And we had great discussions and arguments, and we could each see each other's perspective about candidates and about elections and policies. And I truly believe
Mhm.
that in many ways, Republicans and Democrats do both want largely the same things. We want to be able to provide for our families. We want a decent job. We want health care. We want our kids to get a good education. We just have some slightly different ways of getting
Mhm.
there. But the fundamental things that we want as Americans
Mhm.
are the same.
Sure. Do you think that is I look at like our governor, and then so in this case it'd be Democrat. Then you look at the opposite party, so that'd be the GOP leadership. Yeah, they're not getting along, right? They don't really communicate. They're not having that bipartisan. And you could say it's the other one's fault or it's the Republicans' fault. It doesn't matter. The point is they're just not really talking. So is that again one of those things where that's mom and dad, and if they're not getting along, then what can we really do? Is it kind of just filter down through the ranks, as it were, and now everybody's just not talking to each other?
Yeah, well, mom and dad need to get along better for the sake of the kids.
That's why. Thank you. That's where I was going.
Yeah. So I'm not sure as a legislator what I would be able to
Yeah.
do, but I would. Both sides are saying that the other side won't work with
Right.
them, and so I think that both sides need to give a little. And I don't know exactly what's
Sure.
happened and who did what, who invited
Yeah.
who to
Right.
whose
Yeah.
office, but we need to stop that. And the governor needs to, if he hasn't already, really try to work with the legislative leadership. And the legislative leadership, if they're going to say, we don't want this and we have a plan, well, then they need to come up with a plan and work with the governor to create a compromise and get something
Yeah.
done. But this, we have no plan, but we're going to get rid of your plan.
Yeah. That seems to be how it goes.
Yeah. And, also yeah, we got to stop it with the
Yeah.
lawsuits and the
Yeah.
bickering back and
Yeah.
forth.
As my
We have too many important issues going on in Wisconsin right now,
Yeah.
with the healthcare, with COVID, with unemployment, with schools, and schools shutting down, going virtual, and all that. We need to fix those problems, and we're not going to do it by bickering.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of my dad right now because I can just hear what he would say to them. Knock it off. You guys need to knock it off. And that's it. And whatever, just stop. But I know there's a lot
Yes.
more reasons why. Speaking of that, because I know we're up against the clock here already, and there's a couple of things I want to ask you about. But uh, speaking of Evers, the mask mandate that he just announced a couple days ago, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've been watching the cases go up. I have a daughter who's at UW-Madison,
Hmm.
and she called us 24 hours after we dropped her off in the dorms and said, "Mom and Dad, I don't feel safe here in the dorms. There's 600 people in my dorm, and I'm in the dining hall, and people, there's tables full of 20 people. Nobody has a mask because obviously they're eating, but there's no social distancing." And she wanted to move off campus. And at first I was like, no. I want you to be in the dorms, and, I want you to make popcorn at midnight with your friends and do all those things. And then I realized that's not happening in 2020. They're not having the icebreaker games for the whole dorm to get to know each other. And um, these kids are, she was in her room with her roommate. So we let her move off campus, and she was able to get off her out of her housing contract, and she stopped her job at in the food service department and got rid of her, dining hall privileges. And now she's in a studio, and I feel much safer that she's there because they're quarantining entire dorms at UW-Madison now, and cases are skyrocketing at all the universities. And I don't think it's just because teenagers are going to be teenagers. I've watched my kids all summer. They wear masks. Their friends wear masks. When they do see their friends, they've been socially distant, and they've only seen a couple people, and they worked. And that's how they spent their summer. And we've been very careful with family things. So obviously, to get back to it, cases have been rising. Burnett County is very concerning right now. St. Croix County is going up a lot. And Polk is still very slow right now, which, fantastic. Let's stay that way. But the virus doesn't respect county lines, and people live and work in different counties. And so I hope that it's not a matter of time till something changes in Polk County. But I think we need to do everything we can to stop this spread. We're number 2 or number 3 in the country for the number of cases per 100,000 population. We're making the New York Times list. That's not good. We don't want that publicity. That's not the kind of top 5 we want to be in. Wearing masks is something that everyone else in the world does because it works. Other countries that have had strict mandates now are back going to football games and sending their kids to school. And those are all things we want to be doing. We got to wear the masks. We got to stop this.
Do you think, so it was I think it was either to or through November 21st. Do you think that the mask mandate will still be in place by November 21st? Or is this Supreme Court going to look at this and overturn this one again?
I hope that the Supreme Court and Republican leadership would look at how cases are rising and realize that this is a different situation. But I'm also frustrated because I think if we had kept the mask mandate in place and we had kept the stay-at-home orders in place, that we might not be in this position now. And we let things get lax, and enforcement was not strong. So here we are. If it's, I'm concerned because we're moving into flu season. We're moving into a time where everybody's going to be inside. And I'm worried about what's going to happen in November, December, when we really get into normal flu season. Someone was telling me that Regents Hospital in St. Paul, where a lot of people here go, is, getting very full, hasn't been this full in ages. And beds are getting used up across hospitals in Wisconsin as well. So, the other thing is, even if there's not a mask mandate, just wear a mask.
Yeah, it's really not that tough.
Yeah, nobody likes it. I'm asthmatic. I take daily asthma medication. I never leave the house without an inhaler. I managed to wear one. I don't like it, but I wear it.
See, I love it because we have gaiters with just Dryden wear on it. So I love wearing it just because it's advertising.
Yes.
So I do. There's a question I've just now looked through. I'm sorry, I didn't even know people have been commenting through here. One question we'll just from Adam Jarkow. Every single Democrat in the let me see if I put on the screen. I can't read that. Every single Democrat in the legislature voted against the budget Evers signed. Unlike Senator Schachner, if you were if you were there, would you have voted for it? So I guess it's a question about the budget. Would every single Democrat in the legislature voted against the budget Evers signed? If you were there, would you have voted for it?
That's a good question. Evers signed it because I think that he knew that he had to move on, and that he wasn't going to get everything that he wanted to get in his original budget. He submitted a budget. A lot of things were taken out, And my understanding is that is why the Democratic legislators didn't sign it, because it was missing important things. Special education funding is one in particular. We didn't get to education, but that's something that we really need to focus on. So I have a feeling that I probably would have gone along with that, because it wasn't a budget that reflected the priorities of people across the state in Wisconsin.
Okay. When you say go along with it, go along with just not voting for it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Adam. Good question, Adam Jargow. And that's
Oh, I'm sure I'll hear about that.
oh, okay. Well, man, we had so much more to get to. We should just do another one of these sometime. Where can people go to find out more information about you?
I have a website, which is votekimButler.com. I'm also on social media, which if you just search for on Facebook or Twitter at Vote Kim Butler, you should find me. I think my Facebook candidate page is Kim Butler for Wisconsin. But so, yeah, there's lots of stuff there. Emails are fine too. That's votekimbutler@gmail.
Nice. Perfect.
I answer lots of questions that way too.
What do you have coming up? Any events or any speaking things like a Facebook Live, a town hall, a debate somewhere? What do you have coming up soon?
Let's see. I do have my Wisconsin Eye interview coming up on Monday. And gosh, I want to say there was another one. And then the group Citizen Action is having a meet and greet for me on the 7th of October. So, and I'm considering, doing some Zoom events myself. But to be honest, I think everybody that uses Zoom is zoomed out. I know I am.
You should trademark that, zoomed out.
Yeah. I was much more willing in March to do things, and now I'm like,
that's enough.
Another Zoom meeting. People show up, they come, but and I'm willing to go to anything that people invite me to.
Well, I don't first of all, I've never even done, I think I've been on like 2 Zoom things, and I realized that I didn't like it because I like conference calls. Because then I can pay attention, but still do other things. We can all multitask. But when you're in Zoom, people can see you not really paying attention. That's why I'm like, I don't like Zoom, man. I'll call in.
That's when you have to put the still picture of yourself up there.
I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah, you can switch to a non-video and have a picture of yourself or the Dryden Wire logo.
Oh, I'm totally doing that.
But that was one of the things I did as 7th CD chair over a year ago. Is we got 26 counties and we were doing conference calls, and everybody was talking over each other, or you would ask a question and everybody would not talk. Right. So now that I switched to Zoom, and now that we have the Brady Bunch screen going on, people can wave or raise their hand, and it's a lot easier.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Kim, it was a pleasure. Of course, I wish you and your family all the best in life, and best of luck to you this November.
Thank you, Ben. Pleasure to be here. Thanks, everybody.
Sweet. Very special thank you to my guest today, Kim Butler, and thank all of you, of course, for watching. Wishing all of you a wonderful and a happy weekend. Remember, stay safe, keep your social distance, and as always, have a blessed day.